it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing a technique that I learned over on Maymay Made It's channel. I will link the video below in the description box so you can check it out because mine is a little bit different. So this is all about using up your pattern papers. Yes, we all have them, we all hoard them. Don't lie to yourself. You have tons of paper probably that you have hoarded that you're like, I love this, but then you get it home and you're like, I don't know what to do with it. Most of them are usually 12 by 12 sheets because 12 by 12s can be intimidating, especially if you're a card maker. And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to take these 12 by 12 sheets and cut them down into card fronts to make them usable. So in her video, there were double-sided pattern papers. I don't have a particular, I really didn't find any double-sided 12 by 12 pattern papers. So I went through and found single-sided ones that I thought, I'm never gonna use these. For example, the one that was just on the screen, that has a bunch of patterns like a quilt on there. Where am I gonna use that? This one just has a bunch of circles. I could have punched those out with a circle punch, but look at this one. Super, super pretty. I love, those are some of my favorite colors. I love the shine of the foil on it, but it is so busy. What am I gonna do with it? So using it as a 12 by 12 background probably wasn't an option because what are you gonna put on there that's going to stand out from that pattern? So with this technique, you are going to cut it down into card fronts. And by doing so, you're gonna see different little patterns. So in this, I can see kind of in the top left and then the right middle to bottom, they almost look like butterflies. That's not what they're meant to be, but they do look like butterflies. So when I cut them down, that's what I'm going to see in the pattern. So spoiler alert. So it is a really, really neat technique if you have papers that you are not sure what parts of them to use. And this is kind of a blind cutting technique. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm just going through these pattern papers, showing you the differences. A couple things that I learned from this is one, it's probably best to use asymmetrical paper. So even though this one is not symmetrical, the first one wasn't, that foil one wasn't, this one here is, this green one, and the backgrounds didn't come out all that differently. So I think this one was kind of a fail. Not that the background was a fail, but for this technique, there wasn't really a difference. For this one, however, huge difference because there are so many different patterns and so many different ways you can cut it. This one as well. This one was a little bit more symmetrical, so there's not a huge difference. And this one, there's baskets all over the place, so you just got different parts of the pattern. So I would try asymmetrical, and I think that was really the only thing that I had. If I can think of, I feel like there was another tip, but I can't remember it, so I'll tell you if I come across it. So really right now what we're going to do is just cut the paper down. So you have to make sure of the orientation. Oh, that was the other thing. There are some papers that it doesn't matter the orientation. For this pattern paper, it does. So make sure you want to know if you want to do a portrait or landscape card and cut your paper appropriately. Since this is a 12 by 12, we're going to cut them down into 3 strips of 4 inches and then do 5 1/4 so that they can go on to an A2 size card base with a little bit of a border. So an A2 size card base, for those of you who don't know, is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you're going to see me repeatedly cut them over and over again. You can cut from the top or the bottom of the paper when you get to the 5 1/4 inch part. I chose for this one just to cut at the bottom because there was that little extra piece at the top that has like the scannable UPC and the paper name on it. So I'm going to keep doing this for all of the pattern papers, and this was actually meant to be a video where I was talking and not doing a voiceover, but something happened and I ended up having to do a voiceover. So you're just gonna watch me cut and I'll do story time real quick. I did my first float ever. If you guys saw the video before this, you'll know that I was going because my EDS was flaring up and I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing experience. I'm definitely going back. They gave, there's a deal right now. So for the rest of the month, there's a deal on the floats. It's $20 off for a 60-minute float, which is amazing. So really, really great. I would highly recommend it if you have something like rheumatoid arthritis, EDS, if you have inflammation for anything, if you're trying to overcome an injury. I absolutely loved it. There's two different kinds of floats. One is sorry, that's Lucy. One is the clamshell float, which is kind of, I feel like it's a coffin with water in it. So I'm claustrophobic. I was not able to do that one. But the other one is kind of like a larger bathtub or a smaller pool. You're floating in 10.5 inches of water. They'd had the lights and music on for the first 10 minutes, and then you can choose to keep the lights on. The woman who helped me out said that there are a lot of people that fall asleep in it. I didn't instantly feel better. I definitely felt better as I went through the float. I felt great when I came out of it. The water is body temperature, so it's not going to be too hot, it's not going to be too cold. The only time that I was really cold is when I was pushing myself off against the sides. If you lay pretty still, I didn't notice any real temperature change or like that I was cold. It was just when I was moving myself. So they do give you a headrest if you are uncomfortable, because they say sometimes your neck muscles, you automatically try to keep your head out of the water, so your neck muscles might be sore. So they recommend you going in with that. There are earplugs because your ears are underwater. And I also put my hands behind my head. I absolutely had a great time in the float. After I learned to relax a little bit, the first 10 minutes felt like it was super, super long. And then after that, it went by very quickly. Like I said, I'm definitely going to go try it again. I feel relief from I was in pain from head to toe. So, and if you're curious about what EDS is, I will leave a link to the prior video and as well as the EDS hop video, so you can learn about it if you are interested. So I'll leave those links below in addition to the May's links for this technique. Okay, so I just talked a little bit about that. If you guys have any questions about the float, please message me, because I think that it can be helpful to so many people, but I know that a lot of people are thinking that it's very claustrophobic. So I ended up, like I said, having a great float, a great time. Definitely going to go back because it is helpful, and it's not only helpful, it's, it was relaxing to me too, because I have a hard time relaxing. Okay, so we're going to get back to this, and I am going to, now I have the pile on the other side. I haven't looked at any of these yet, and now I'm going to pull them out one by one. So these green ones, they're kind of, so the green ones, they're kind of the same pattern over and over again. The foil ones, every one of them looked completely different, and you could use it either way because that pattern doesn't really matter. And there's Lucy. That was the reason that I had to go ahead and do the voiceover instead. She was like purring right in the thing, and you could barely hear me because she was so loud. She was right next to the speaker. So I'm just showing you all of the designs, and remember that paper was super, super busy. Look at how much more manageable it is, and look at the difference between the two once you've cut it down like this. And like I said, this is a blind cut, so I don't know where I'm cutting. You could, if you wanted to, cut it the paper pattern facing up so you could see kind of what you were getting, but that's not the fun of it. This is the fun of, let's see what I get from this. I think some of the pattern papers worked. I think some of them didn't. Now you can see Lucy's reflection in there. That green paper, it was a lot of the same pattern over and over again. So even though I liked it, I don't think it was super successful for this technique. So again, you can just, sorry about that. Lucy was just, she kept hitting her head against my phone, so she keeps putting her head in there, so I pushed her aside, but she didn't want to leave my desk. So that pattern, I love this paper because every single one of them came out so differently, and that's what's amazing about this technique. They all came from that same piece of pattern paper, but the cards are going to look completely different because you're getting a different section of that pattern paper. So I hope that you're enjoying going through all of this. I wanted to show you guys each cut individually so you could see that some of them are similar, but none of those two, when you have an asymmetrical pattern like that, are going to look the exact same. This one, the patterns look a little bit more similar because it wasn't exactly a symmetrical design, but it wasn't asymmetrical. So again, I think this works. There's a lot of colors in it, a lot of patterns. When you cut it down, I think it's easier to work with because you have a smaller pattern and maybe not all of the colors from the background are in every single one of them. So if you have a more, a paper that is more, or an image that is more dominant in one color versus the others, you can pick that pattern paper instead of trying to figure out what part of the pattern you want. So then here is the Easter one, which is, you know, it's hard because you don't want to like lop the bunny's head off or the ducks or whatever characters you have. You don't want to lop anybody's head off or cut their tail off, but usually these ones, like May did a couple of these ones, types of this, and this is, it worked, you know. Maybe not all of the animal got into there, but you can still tell what the animals are. So these ones are the ducks. I thought there were bunnies on this one. I apologize. This one's the ducks and then the baskets. So you get the idea. Again, it's a smaller part of the pattern paper. So I think it's just a little bit easier to work with than using that whole sheet and trying to figure out what part of it you want. So I hope that this technique helps you guys go through your pattern papers, see what you like, see, you know, what ones you've had in your stash for a really, really long time that you haven't used, and maybe you can try this technique on. It doesn't have to be double-sided paper like we did here, but I think that it will help you use up some of your stash. Let me know below in the comment section if you decide to do this, and let me know how it worked out for you guys. I will be making these into cards and I will show you them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!